Hello, and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Podcast. This is the back of the bus session. This is up to you. Oh no, I tickled myself. Hello and welcome to the Old Farm Bus Back of the Bus Sessions podcast. Today I'm really happy because my mate Nick McCann is on the bus with me. Oh, rocket, more, don't you stop. Whew. Oh, baby.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello.
I think I've only had 2 other performances in 150 odd episodes now. I've only had
It's a nice
2
little
others.
segue to boast about your numbers. That's impressive.
It was just about me, that. But
no, really, like the amount of creative people you've had on this thing.
But for performances, and the one you did was, I've actually found out it was April 2020, and you were episode 3.
God's sake.
Number 3, man.
Number 3, Jesus.
And then you did a little performance on there, didn't you?
Yeah, I did, because I remember I bought 2 guitars, because I was going to school to teach straight after, and the one that I ended up using, listening back, was like slipping out of tune as I was playing. But I broke a string on the other one before. I was like,
I need to. You've been back to listen to that. Is it worth a listen?
Yeah, I think so.
Episode
If you
number 3,
want to,
guys.
if you want to stroke your own ego,
Yeah.
like I did. No, it was cool. It was cool. It was just funny because like I listed out all the gigs that I had coming up and all the different bands, and then
How many bands?
something happened. I think there was about 4 different bands at the time.
And then C Word,
Yeah,
straight away.
The Dark Times kicked it all in.
So we weren't even. We didn't know that was coming at all. It was April. It must have been like a week or so after then, and then we shut down.
Yeah, I think we were like on the cusp, basically. I think because.
Can you remember what happened when C Word happened? To, like the first day you saw the news, or
a lot of panic.
really?
Yeah. Well, with like working in schools and stuff, all of a sudden I was getting notifications from teachers, and it was just like, okay, this might be happening.
Wow.
So this might mean the schools will shut. I'm panicking. Like on the inside, I'm panicking a little bit. I'm not going to lie, because like self-employed.
Yep.
If I can't go in to teach, how's this going to work?
And you were just on the cusp, right, of us from 3 years ago. That was you going full time. I remember us having discussions before that.
So yeah, at this point, I'd been full time for 2 years, like full time self-employed, but now there was children involved.
Yeah,
and everything like that. So
because the podcast we did then was very much about being dads or going into fatherhood.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think our now second child was 7 or 8 months, maybe.
Well, I'm looking forward to
like that,
both of those paths that we'll talk about in the podcast. The first will go on education.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed the change then in all the youth and the young people that you're working with? The mindsets, the shift, their attitudes. What have you seen? Is it wild? There's so many anecdotes just come to your head then.
Working in secondary schools now, there's definitely year groups that I would describe as feral.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
like no, not in a disrespectful way or anything. It's I remember what it was like at secondary school.
An honest way.
We were all just like a bit mental, but now there's I don't know.
There was a good structure still, wasn't there? There was a bit of an understanding of, this is coercive, this is how the system rolls.
Yeah.
But, from my experience of going to schools now, it's like reformatting that structure and trying to re-envision it.
Yeah.
Because they've got none.
And it's like everybody, you think about the kids who are like sort of year 8 to year 10 when they got forced into online. They've then had to be reintegrated. Now, as a young adult going through changes, you get one thing forced on you and you have to adapt to that. But then to try and go back to the old ways, like, I think it's just done something to them mentally. Because, they're kicking back.
In every different age.
Yeah.
Such different sort of formative periods. Like the year 5 to year 6, it's got its own needs and sort of finding your hierarchy in place. But those year 6s that went into year 7 and then ended up in year 8 or 9, that's completely wild, isn't
where's
it?
your year of school? Like, it didn't actually exist, but you had to do everything at home.
From being like top dogs here to bottom of the chain here, and having 2 years of not having time to formulate that, it's really difficult, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how have you positioned yourself within that then? How are you finding the conversations? And
I think conversations have been a lot more broad, because obviously when I went back to schools, there was a lot of... It was almost like everyone had been on a massive summer holiday. You know, when they come back after summer, it's like, what did you get up to? And it's just like... It's like, okay, cool. But it was more... I feel there was more of a genuine connection. Like, I do feel that the children are a lot more willing to talk.
A need to reach out. In a way.
So I think, like, with all that kind of forced interaction with, say, just your family for so long, majority of them I've found have come out and they can have conversations with people. They can say what they want. They're a lot more relaxed. On the other hand, I've witnessed some children who have gone, like, completely the other way. And, I've, had to speak to teachers at schools about them and stuff. And it's like, no, they've actually become a lot more introverted since the experience. So I kind of feel like I'm at this point where I feel a little bit more like a kind of coach /
mentor.
I was going to say therapist, but I don't know.
You.
Like,
do
you know what I mean?
So, I get it. Yeah. Like, as similar to us, I was going in to teach poetry, but now I feel I'm going in for that mentorship role of just being human again, and for them to sort of resonate with that a little bit. Yeah. Is that similar to what you're experiencing?
Yeah, definitely. And trying to, I find that pushing the creative stuff on them is a lot easier nowadays, because they're a lot more kind of willing to try something new. Yeah. A lot of them, which is great. And it's just trying to remind them that, like, you don't have to be this kind of regimented thing all the time. You are still this human being that can create art, and you're still allowed to do it, which is nice.
Well, all they were confronted with was new.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, the only thing that's constant is change.
Yeah.
And we're going to have to really deal with that at every stage of our life. Yeah. And with that. So same with being a parent in COVID times. How did you find that? How old are all your kids now?
Well, it was only 2 at the time. So at the time, it would have been, 7 or 8 months for the now second one. And then oldest would have been, 2, 3? 3, because we went to Butlins in March of 2020. And at Butlins, they'd started, putting all the hand sanitizer and everything everywhere. And, I was kind of walking around and being like, what is this? This is mad. This will never take off. This won't be the world. And then like, whoa, it was. So, so there was 3 and 7 months, I'll say. I'm glad I didn't have a child in school.
Yeah.
Because I had some mates who were parents and they had to homeschool.
Oh.
And I was just like, it sounds crazy. And it's like, it's not homeschooling as in homeschooling. They had to make sure they were online for a Zoom session, doing the work with them and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm so glad I didn't have to do that.
Well, didn't you have to, though? Not for your kids, but for other kids?
Oh, yeah, for my business and stuff. Yeah. But to me, I don't know. Do I feel guilty saying this? I loved lockdown.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
If we just, obviously I hated not seeing my parents and all that jazz. But if I look at it from our little bubble of our family and my business, it was fantastic because I got so much time with our second born that I never would have got. So our bond is like that. And the same with the oldest, and the same with my now wife. It's just it brought us so much closer together because we were just able to kind of be parents. And we were both working and we were both kind of splitting the days between us. Thankfully for me, I found it a lot easier to go online with guitar. There's certain things you can't do, like you can't have a jam via Zoom. That doesn't work because of latency and whatnot. But I found I was actually getting more out of the lesson for the student.
Why?
Well, in person now, if I do a half-hour lesson, I'll meet and greet them at the door, come in, how you doing, set up, tune up, quick chat, get into the lesson, and then we got to make sure we're packed down within like the 5 minutes before to go on to the next lesson. So really, it's probably only about 20 minutes worth of teaching. With lockdown, I'd sign on, let's say 12 o'clock, sign off at 12:30, and I'd have been teaching.
That's just
for the
teaching
whole
time.
thing.
Yeah,
Like, so I found the students were getting a lot more because they had a little bit more time to kind of go over the stuff, and I could watch them back. They were all set up, majority of them were all set up and ready to go before I signed on, which is fantastic because you can just jump straight into it. And then I had the ability to record lessons as well.
That's
which
cool.
like I've started adapting more and more. So like just record the session with parents' permission, obviously, send it over to them, and then their practice levels were going up.
Would you watch it back as well?
Yeah,
sort of
definitely.
see where
Like,
they tick
I was watching them, and I was also watching it back for me. Like I got to do a lot of self-analysis as a teacher
that's
I was
really
like,
important.
okay, man, that's so. Like I'd figure something out, and I'd be like, well, I could have made it a little bit more simple to explain at that point. So for me, from business and my immediate family bubble, like it was the best thing that could have happened for us.
Was there any other traits that you noticed in your teaching ability? Because that's a light bulb moment for me in terms of having teachers have their sessions filmed, how good that would be for their development.
Yeah, I think it's, I think it just made me realise what I could expand on, and it made me identify what are weaknesses, I suppose, because I was like, you know, I can explain things a little bit better here, or I didn't quite pick up on, say, the hand placement or something. Like I could have explained that a bit more. I just found it a lot more helpful. Like, rather than have someone else come in and be like, "You're not doing this. Try it this way."
How quickly did, in the COVID times, it get to sink or swim for you? Obviously, there was a lot of panic at the start, and you thought, "Whoa, how am I going to position myself here?" Where did you choose? Okay, we've got to swim. And how quickly did that happen where you started swimming and being like, oh, this is amazing?
Well, it had to happen very quickly.
Yeah.
As soon as it hit in, because we had no choice. And it was basically like, right, okay, the schools are doing this. I can do this. And then it was like 2 or 3 days of email correspondence between like students and parents, setting everything up, setting up days and times at work for everybody. And I think I'd set it up within like the weekend, and it was the first week of lockdown, and I was just like, right, I'm doing it. You're all at school, so I'm just going to do it, and we'll make it happen. And then by the end of that first week, I was like, yeah, we can do this. During that first week, I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen now? Like, oh. But yeah.
And did you notice they were getting better because they had so much more time at home to be spending on playing an instrument, which
majority
is an enjoyable
of them,
time?
Yeah, majority of them were improving, dedicating a lot more time. Some were not. But again, you know, I think some
computers also at home.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of things going on. Your siblings are at home. There were some lessons that were quite difficult to teach, because like there was just so much going on in the background and things like that, and kids are a lot more easily distracted at their own home.
Yeah.
So you know, some of the primary school students were quite a challenge.
Mate,
but overall, like
I was working with adults on some stuff, doing Zoom meetings, and it was so just that what and you paused, Mary, you paused.
Turn your camera on. I can't see you.
I can't hear what you say, and I'm like, I do not want to be here right now. Sorting out meetings. So
did you?
That was weird.
Like, did you ever find you were more tired at the end of the day after Zoom? Because I would find that after a few months of it, I would finish, like I was teaching on the top floor, and I'd come down to like the living room when I'd finished, and then I'd just lie on the sofa, and it'd be like, "Are you all right?" Like, I'm exhausted. And
what was that fatigue from? Why?
I think
why
it was just screen fatigue.
Yeah,
basically,
it makes sense.
because I was still trying to do like my normal teaching, so I was still doing 4 to 5 hours, at the majority of the days, because I was like condensing people and chucking people here, there, and everywhere, so I could accommodate for my other half's teaching and everything. And I think it was just screen fatigue and just sat on that chair all the time and not remembering to get up every now and again.
And on a good day, there must be some science to this, but when you're in a school and you've got a good energy and a good vibe with people around you, you energize each other, don't you? So I've come home from schools having the most electric day, and I've been around people, And that sent me off in a really nice stead. I've had the opposite happen.
Yeah,
Don't get me wrong. I've come home battered and bruised. But I think it is hard to feel that sense of energy through a screen. Even if it's you're having a nice moment or you're talking a nice way, you're still not feeling it in like how we might be now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Like trying to match people's energy is much easier in person.
Completely.
Yeah, so I do, like, you've made me remember, I did have one hard day where I had like 3 students in a row. They were just not feeling it. They were sick of the time, sick of the change. They were bored of everything, as I think most people had at some point. And it was just like I couldn't pull them out of it. I remember finishing the sessions and I had one of those, like, you know, the little voice in my head, like, that was you. Like, why didn't you pull them out of it? Like, you're a terrible teacher. What are you doing this job? And it was just like, no, I feel so bad.
Yeah.
But then it was like, no, you can't match the energy through a computer screen. And if they're not on your level, like, you can't do it. It's not like The Ring. I can't put my hand through the screen and just like, come on, let's do this, man.
Yeah.
So.
There's been days where I'd got very little achieved at a school before, and I based everything on the amount that they curated from it. But I like this saying of what is learned and what is taught are 2 separate things, because down the line, I've had them kids that I thought they got nothing out of it. They'll message and say, that was one of the best days I've ever had, you know.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, mate.
Yeah.
I was sort of sat in neurosis and anxiety for 2 weeks thinking I didn't reach it all as well. So I think that was a lesson for me, is just always do your best and provide your best self.
Yeah.
And they'll either latch onto that or not, but don't base yourself on where they're at.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I think that was a good thing in teaching for me.
I like that.
I like you, man.
Yeah, I like you too. We're back here.
A big thing then, the gigs as well. That was such a big part of your life, you know, being around people. What I've realised now on the road of self-discovery is I'm quite a recluse. I'm introverted. I needed the path of being out and about and around people. It was important to me. But now I've got kids and I'm on a different trajectory. I'm much more introverted than I knew. But it seems I don't know people, you know, to the core. But it seems in your life, you're very much more about being out and with people and in social situations. So did that affect you?
Yeah, that's probably like my main negative.
Man.
Well, that was it. I was gigging. I've been gigging as much as possible. If I could have done every weekend
for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I would have done.
But
I think it worked out. I can't remember. It was a ridiculous amount of time. It was over a year, I think. I think it might have been over a year before my first live performance.
Wow.
So
for somebody, because mate, like, surely out of school, we're talking, I don't know, how long have you been performing for?
Officially, well, I mean, technically speaking, since I was 18, since I could go out in bands in pubs, but I started performing at school at 13.
I was going to say, there's no police listening to this, man.
That's right.
You were going out earlier.
I've not been getting paid for everything, though, I promise, Mr. Taxman. So yeah, I mean, like, as long as I've been playing my guitar, I've been in bands doing things. So yeah.
I mean, you're pretty darn talented. So anybody looking for a guitarist, you'd be the first point of call for them.
It's the only reason I came here. That's it. I'm signed out. Like.
But yeah, can you talk a little bit about that toll that it took on you, and if you found ways of substituting that?
I don't think I realised what was going on. Because I was so I kind of threw myself into being dad, like, way more, which was great for me. And I think I didn't realise until probably a couple of months before my first gig back that it was taking its toll on me. And I was starting to get a little bit like, I wasn't down and depressed and like completely reclusing myself from everybody.
Prickly.
I was just, something was not right. And I was having a chat with my neighbour at the time, and I was just talking about it with her, and it was just like, I don't know what's up. I think she said something like, how do you normally kind of get past that, or what would pull you out of it? And I was like, being on stage would pull me out of this feeling. And then all of a sudden it was like, I've not been on stage for like a year or something. Like, being on stage for me is probably, for the most part of my life before kids, it's probably the only time that I've ever been able to be truly present. and it just kind of, I don't want to sound all like
like,
airy fairy,
no,
but
do,
you know,
do.
It's like a zen state for me.
Yeah.
Because I can just get into the performance. Like I love doing it so much, and if I'm with people who I enjoy playing with, I'm just there, and all that matters at that time is that time on stage.
I'm quite envious of that.
So it's like,
I think I've been in one jam before, but playing bloody bongos. What's the djembe?
The little bears.
They give me that because I was like, I need a responsibility here, and they give me one. And I was like, I kind of can keep some rhythm, and I know what you're alluding to. I felt that we were going for about 20 minutes by accident. I was like,
but that's it, by accident
trance.
Though, innit?
It's
like
trance.
Doesn't matter, does it?
It's cool,
like,
man.
It's just there, and what I love about it as well is once it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that was amazing. But you know, I know that the next time is going to be different because we can't create what we just did. So I think for me, it was like unintentional, consistent weekly meditation by doing my gigs. So I didn't have
way
that.
Of putting it. Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, okay, that might be what's, pissing me off, basically. So.
Do you think it amplifies it? No pun intended. By having an audience, by having people there, or could you just find that in a jam situation and setting? Does it have to be performance too?
Oh, for me, no. I can just jam. With
you
people.
Feel jamming is enough for you.
If I go, I used to. I was cutting my teeth down at like open mic nights and jam nights for years. Just get on stage and play with people. Every now and again, somebody would come along. We'd gel. We'd play on stage. It'd be great. They'd be like, "Oh, do you want to play again in a bit?" It's like, "Yeah, we'll play again in a bit." Like, and then you'd get that cheeky kind of end slot where you kind of just go on until they say no more, and then it's just like, oh, and then you come off, and it's like you've made this connection with this person you don't even know.
Yeah.
Through something you absolutely love.
That's what.
So no, it doesn't have to be like I'm not bothered about an audience and whatnot.
Music's universal though in that moment. You're speaking a language together there, aren't you?
I mean, we had it the other night on Saturday. My band played a gig. The first half was dire. Like there was people in the pub. Don't get me wrong, but it was just one of them hard audiences. Like I'll tell you how hard it was. Right?
Okay.
We did All Along the Watchtower by Hendrix, and I do like all the gimmicky Hendrix stuff. So I play with my teeth. I play behind my head. I got out on the dance floor and everything, and I did this. And even at the end of that song, the clapping didn't increase. It was still.
Oh, mate. That's
very much like. So I was kind of like, right, well, I've got nothing left here at this point.
To shivers? I usually get shivers, but you just give me the opposite to shivers.
Just like, oh my gosh. So
sick.
I walked back on stage and I said to the drummer, I said, well, I've got nothing left, so I'm going to play the same way that I would play. But then in the second half, the audience changed. Half the audience members, I think they changed.
Okay,
and then there was a few more drunk people. And then people started getting up and dancing. And it was just like, what? Because in the first half as well, the singer's like pedal board had gone down. We'd had tech issues. We weren't happy with the sounds because like it was all just rushed setting up. And then by the end of the second half, we were like, I was all right. Well in, lads. Smashed it. It was just so weird. So weird.
I know also you make music with Molly, your wife.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a very different...
Are we allowed to talk about that on this podcast?
What? Not the sweet music, the other music. Mate, our minds are so similar. That's why I took time saying that question, because I was like, how do I make this not sound like a euphemism? And you still turned it into one.
Yeah.
Mate.
Yeah.
Cheers, man.
Anyway.
How different is that to play with your partner with music? Is it a harder process? Can you have squabbles? Do you have squabbles?
Rehearsal time. When you see this, darling, you'll agree. Rehearsal time. Probably. We have a beautiful relationship. Absolutely love her. Like till the day I die or more. And I think rehearsals are the only time we would, actively kind of dispute with each other.
Really?
Because I think we just clash. We both got just the way something should be played or something. Like, we were meant to do Valerie when we started getting together and doing this stuff, and she never liked the way that I played it.
Why did you play it?
I can't even remember what I used to do. I did a different version with a band before, and I was like, this is the version that I know. And we tried to work on it, and then she'd do something to it, and I was like, I don't like the way you do that. And it was... I think Valerie was like a song we can never play together now because it's just like
Have you-
no.
Can you listen to it together?
No, I don't think I've never tried that
Even if
actually.
it
No,
comes
maybe
on,
we
you're
should
just
try that. I don't know.
You just look at
Work
each other
really
like,
well
"Come
or
on."
really bad.
Oh, bless man.
But yeah, I think it was good with the band.
Yeah.
Like we had a band going last year. I think we both enjoyed the much more electric approach. I think the acoustic duo thing was. I think it was more difficult for us. I think maybe if I'm honest about it, acoustic playing, like just me as the sole instrument, maybe it's just something I need to be going back to and working on because all the musician pressure fell on me. Okay. Basically, and I think I was trying to overcomplicate things at times. They could have been a lot more simple, or I was constantly thinking, I could have done this. I could have adapted it that way. So I don't know, but we love doing it. You know what I mean? It's a gig. Gig's a gig, man. So yeah.
With all your creativity that you do, you in the band, but also you make your own music, don't you? Like instrumental stuff.
Yes.
Do you have like I've so multifaceted this question.
Okay.
Because do you have
hold on tight, people?
Do you have a preference to what you create? Like, would you like to be jamming in a band, or do you like the independent solo stuff that you make because it's all your direction, and you're not faced with all them consequences? And in COVID, did you get a lot of time to do that?
Man, that was a
I
good
said
question. Good question.
Multifaceted.
Yeah.
I've seen. Well, just to add, I've seen you solo before.
Yeah.
And personally, I've seen you in all different settings, and I love you in all different settings.
Oh,
all of them. But the best for me on a stage was solo, because I just felt like you'd bottled up your essence and poured it out onto a stage, and you only got that. Really got me quite emotional at times. The way you can make that sing, that instrument, in such a different, unique way to anybody else I've ever seen. It was really special.
No, thank you, man.
Yeah, so I wondered what your interpretation is.
I think I go through different phases. But I think for me, if I had to pick one, I probably would say doing the solo instrumental stuff is the best. But it's not something I've pursued massively. Like, I'm still much happier with the bands. Like, I love everything. I can't actually pick, but I think if I look at it from a performance aspect, the solo instrumental stuff is literally me pouring everything I have into this thing that's been attached to me since I was like 12 years old. At the same time, I don't think I've pursued it because there's a lot of pressure.
It's quite niche as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is very niche.
In terms of
it's not like I can go into any pub like up and down a high street, be like, "Hey, can I come and do this for 2 hours?" Most of them be like, "No." Yeah. Majority of places have been really receptive, but it's not like I've then gone back and done a regular thing week in, week out, because again, I'm not in the right area of the country or the world to be doing that sort of thing.
I'm surprised by that in a way, because I've been to so many pubs where when you've got a band on, they've got to be really special to captivate everyone. If not, it's just noise over noise, which is hard. But when you've got like ambience music, you could have somebody at the side. I know there's noise still going on, but they can really just listen into the instrument, or you accompany everyone having a conversation, which is quite beautiful as well.
I always thought that I could do like, say, restaurants or something like that. If I could get like a few of those gigs just on my own, me and the guitar and the loop pedal, like I'd love to give that a go. Had you not done a restaurant? No, I've not actually. So if there's any restaurants listening in, I'm free to play. I'm not free to play, but you know what I mean.
I bet you've had that request a lot.
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh, surely that's stopped now, though. Do you know when you've got more notches on your belt, people stop asking?
There's less and less
freebies.
There's less and less freebies now that I've noticed. Anyway, there's the odd charity gig every now and again. But
I do know we have one restaurant. Watch this, Roker. So hey
oh,
guys,
hello, nice to meet you.
Messaged me the other day.
Check me out on Spotify.
I love your podcast.
You know,
dudes. Yeah, he will play. Not for free. So, but you don't have that request.
It's
ace, mate. It's like I was going to say Argentinian barbecue, but it's not that. It's the Turkish style food.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Anything with meat, mate, and I'm
Yeah,
there.
yeah, all right. I'm down with that. Down for a bit of meat.
It's in Ripley now. Have you not been?
Oh, is this the place that replaced the burger place?
Yes. It was the burger
No,
place
it
before
was
as
the
well.
burger place.
But
Right, okay.
You just saw a different market.
So I never got a chance to try the burger place. I was
You
gutted.
missed out
and
a
I
treat.
know I missed out. And then when I found some free time, I did some research and I was like, oh, it changed hands. Or whatever. It's changed into something else. And I was like, okay, fine.
Well, before we jump out of the solo stuff, did you say you were getting to explore that a little bit more while you had the time then?
I did quite a few online gigs in lockdown, which was actually really cool. It was weird not having the audience there to bounce off. Obviously, that is very strange. But there were a couple of like online gigs where I had like over 100 people tuning in just to watch me.
You wouldn't get that at a normal gig?
Well, no, not normally. Like it was just like there, and I had like quite a few family members from Scotland and stuff tune in, and like friends, and I was like, oh yeah, good to see you doing what you're doing, and I was just like, woo, yeah.
That brings about the interesting conversation about sort of online gigs and stuff, doesn't it? Because yeah, your family from Scotland, hundreds of people, as opposed to being in an actual place, it is logistically hard for people to get to sometimes.
Yeah.
And maybe they want the opportunity to dip in and dip out. So it's probably quite nuanced, isn't it?
Yeah.
About that.
Yeah,
And I know
think
where
I'd
you
do
prefer
it.
to be.
I know where I'd prefer to be, but I wouldn't say, like, I think some people are kind of like, I'd never do an online show again. And it's like, well, if I ever find the time, like at some point in my life, I will set all my gear up and I'll do another Facebook Live type thing just for the sake of it, just because I enjoy it. Because then I think for me, I then see an opportunity to do what I enjoy doing. Because trying to find time to practice and actually create at the minute is kind of restricted. So
well, that was my nice transition there. I'm very
okay, look at this. It's like you've been doing this for a while.
I was wondering if you have anything that you have created in that time that we could listen to.
Oh, that I've created? Oh my God, no.
or anything that you think would suit this moment, or something, a piece from your solo.
So I can't do it because of the way that I've recorded the track. The last solo track I released was back in 2021, and it was called Awaken the Dragon. And I released it. I think I ended up releasing it on St. George's Day.
Have I got a CD of that? Put them into CDs.
I could put them into CDs. It's just on Spotify. I didn't really go into
like
it.
I'd got a CD. Is it not that one then? Because I've got one of your
that
CDs
was,
at home, so I wondered if it was that one.
That was from 2019. That was.
Wow.
That would have been the album. So.
Oh mate, okay.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Sometime.
But yeah, Awaken the Dragon was very different. It was a full scale electric instrumental with like I programmed the drums and everything like that, and it ended up being, I didn't intend it to be related to St. George's Day, but it ended up being, I'm trying to simulate the idea of this warrior battling a dragon on a mountainside, and I think I pulled it off. When I tell people that, and they're like, oh yeah, I could see that. I was like, that's pretty cool.
How many tracks?
Oh, it's just the one track.
It was the one track.
Yeah, so
How
it's
long?
the one track. It's it's so short. It's like 3 minutes, but a minute of that is a lot of weird, crazy samples at the start that are just like going through the dragon's lair and a couple of like dragon screams and things like that.
So when you're playing that, how much of that image have you got in your mind?
So much.
Or are you literally
so much?
eyes
I was
closed
literally there. Like
there?
I was making it. I had like this rare evening where I could just create, and I just started with this riff, and I think I'd watched which one I think I'd watched the second Hobbit film recently as well.
So good.
So the dragon, that I'm pretty sure that all came from there, and then I was just like
mate.
basically, so
on the
it goes up
back.
in levels and stuff, and like by the end of it, like let's say I'm the warrior and I'm fighting him on top of this volcano, like the flames are coming down, there's your shield, it's like and like basically the ending note like hits and it goes and then I put another sample of a dragon scream, and that's meant to symbolize the sword going into his heart, and that's like the end of the battle.
Dude.
So yeah, I get.
Are we gonna get this then?
No, not now. I can't do that now.
Right, okay.
Like literally. But if you want to listen
got
to
the
it, it's on
djembe.
Spotify.
Okay.
Like it's little djembe. It's on Spotify. So yeah, please check. It's just Nick McCann on Spotify, and it's the last one that I did.
Well, could you do us a minute then, or two, of just pure Nick McCann?
What? Just
jamming?
make something up
Yeah,
right
because
now.
you got your guitar on you. I
Well,
kept
I
looking at it.
know,
I kept
but you-
thinking, oh, maybe we do need to hear it. Oh, move your mic to it closer if you can. Yeah, bob it down.
Oh my gosh.
Here we go. Oh, so, mate, I'm gonna. I'll get rid.
Is that clipped?
I'll get rid of that for everyone.
How's that looking on there?
Perfect.
Let's try and. What can I jam about? Oh. There you go.
Oh, you
some of that.
Get that
I don't know, like
mic back up to your mouth, you.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
That was kind of like I was going into like I was thinking of The Hobbit for a minute then, actually. Or like Lord of the Rings. Thinking like the kind of
I've been watching
where
all
they're
those again
getting
recently.
out onto the journey type thing, you know, they're setting off on the quest.
Do you have to get into a little bit of an image then to play something from heart? Does it help a lot?
Sometimes it's sometimes I play it straight from the heart, and sometimes I play something and then I have to kind of reflect on it. It depends really.
Interesting.
So like obviously Awaken the Dragon was very visually focused in my mind. The album before that was all based on my life experiences at the time, you know, like moving on to new things, expecting a new baby, changing work and all that jazz. So, but yeah, everything that I do, I try and do it as pure as I can because it's
Same
me,
with the what is it? Sorry, a dragon.
Awaken the Dragon.
Awaken the Dragon.
Yeah.
Were you battling or confronting anything in your own life at that time that you were trying to sort of get through that image? Or was it literally, I love The Hobbit?
No, I think it was, I think it ended up being a bit of a metaphor. It was, I don't feel I was going through anything in particular, but I was trying to create something that lifted me in a way and kind of motivated me.
Yeah.
Just to kind of like keep smashing through stuff. So, you know.
When you were playing that guitar then, it looked really enjoyable to play. Like it had a nice action to it and everything. When people are getting into guitar, can you give a few tips of what's important when looking at a guitar? Because I was looking at it going,
you know
that
what?
looks
Like,
enjoyable.
When I started out, I would have said like traditional, get yourself like, say for your kids and stuff, get like the nylon string 3/4 size acoustic. Or now I'd have to meet the individual basically. So because as good as it is starting on like, you know, the acoustic guitars, they're so unforgiving, which is a 50-50 good and bad thing. You know, it's really good because they're unforgiving because you can hear every single little bit of mistake.
Yeah.
But that's really bad because it can be really demotivational for somebody. You're struggling like,
Yeah.
like you can't get a chord.
What's it called where you
anything.
nullify the strings? Or like.
Oh, so we just you've got to learn a lot of left-hand muting and things like that. So, but again, another downside to some people with acoustics, they're usually thicker strings. Like if they're steel string,
Yeah.
so it's a lot more
Oh, mate. That's what put me off.
Really?
Oh, huge. I remember the
Are you
first
not a
guitar I
guy
had.
who's into pain? Like,
Oh, mate, no.
Like-
Is it sadomasochist? Or something? No. No, the action was like probably a couple of inches away from the
like
fretboard.
ridiculously far. Yeah.
So far, and it was steel string as well.
So you're just
honestly,
kind of like,
it was. Well, I would have been, because your mum and dad, when they don't want to be around as well a lot, more my mum, they just threw stuff at you. Like,
well, quite literally. Like,
here's some drums, or here's something, but
yeah.
and then leave it on your own to deal with. You're like,
Yeah.
I don't know this thing, so you go on YouTube or whatever. But yeah, I really put myself off because I've tried for probably maybe a month,
Yeah.
but it was just painful all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And then I went to a shop, I don't know, about a year ago, and I remember that moment where you think like the halos come on,
Yeah.
this beautiful light comes in the room, you hold this guitar and it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
like the
this
Wayne's
is-
World moment. Like,
yeah, this is what I could do. So yeah, I felt it is important to a feeling of an instrument. or
Yeah,
something.
I think it's the guitar. I believe is a personal choice for everybody. But again, like, so we're saying about the good and bads about acoustic. The good thing about electrics, actually teaching on electrics now, is they are actually a lot easier. They may be steel string, but you'll usually find the action's a lot lower. So you can kind of get that sound without having to go ridiculously hard.
Mm-hmm.
Then again, the downside can be they're expensive and they come with amps, and not a lot of parents support the loud noises.
Oh, yeah,
and things
yeah.
like that. So
I made that bad decision. A kiddie had really shown some quality on the drums.
yeah,
Took some drums round. I just thought it was a nice thing to do.
that is
In my
beautiful,
head,
man.
I
Just,
thought
like,
it was
turn up,
nice.
like,
I didn't think about all the neighbours and the
so
logistics.
many factors in it,
Yeah.
isn't there? Yeah,
Definitely the logistics of drums.
yeah, man.
So, what about the kids? When they're seeing mum and dad really passionate and just doing their thing, is that entice them into finding whatever their thing is? Not even music necessarily, but just you ooze passion, you ooze, I've got this.
I think it is. I think we're inspiring them, and they're probably inspiring us at the same time.
Ooh.
Because kids are really, really good at getting fixated on something and really loving it. And that, to me, is a massive thing. Because I'm like, you're really into that. And I'm like, I can feed off that. That makes me feel good. Because I'm like, I can see you're being passionate about something. Whether this thing ends up being, you know, like the oldest at the minute, he's getting so good with colouring. And maths, like, incredibly, like, he's just getting proper on it. Now, whether he pursues these as a life thing, it doesn't matter. But to see him, like, so focused and physically enjoying himself, and, like, coming away from it dead happy. Like, he did this picture the other week, it's like coloured in this Pokemon picture. And I was like, that's some of the sickest colouring I've ever seen. Like, you know, everyone's like, you got to make sure they stay in the lines. Like, no bother there. He's like, shaded colours and everything. It's like, Dad, look at this. I'm like, incredible. He's got one picture on his wall of Nightwing from Batman that he coloured in that we had framed, and it's just
Amazing.
so cool. And it's just
How old
like
is he now?
6,
Wow.
6, which is
But
mental.
just seeing, like, learning as a journey and an exploration rather than something you're being coerced or forced into.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's just enjoying taking on the tools that he's picking up.
Yeah, that's
really cool.
That's beautiful.
And my hope for, like, us doing our passion is my hope that they can take on board that you can make a life and a living doing what you love, despite the amount of people that would protest this sort of thing.
Yeah.
You know, the people who are brainwashed into, like, the normal whatever. You know, I want them to see, you know, obviously, hopefully we can keep doing this and bring them up through this lifestyle.
I feel that old thinking's diluted a little bit. Just from my own lived experience and perspective, maybe I don't see as many people now or don't listen to as many voices.
I think there's a shift with the kids that are coming up now, like, and stuff like that, which is nice.
Being sort of self-made, self-taught, and same with the opportunities and the difference of what businesses are looking for. It's not this retaining and regurgitating information, but it's how many skills have you got? How flexible are you? And what else do you know? And I think instruments and creativity all encompass that for any business.
Yeah.
It shows that you've got dedication for something.
Yeah.
So I think, for me, it used to be what GCSEs or what have you passed through here? What hoops have you got through?
Yeah,
I would say, I know I employ people for a creative hub, so that's a very different. But I've even had conversations with business owners, and they don't give a monkeys about the qualifications and that side of things. That's just gone off, so let me replace your SD card.
Okay. Look
We'll
at
be
that.
back.
Woo, break
I'm glad I
time.
saw it.
My gosh.
Mate, I must be filming in 4K. I'm going to look amazing. So where were we?
I don't know. Kids growing up.
Being inspired, being
Yeah.
passionate.
Yeah. So I kind of I hope that what me and Molly do, like, teaches them they can do what they want to do. Basically, they don't have to go and follow the same.
Quite Gandhi-esque,
direct
isn't it?
path,
What did he say?
what?
Be the change you want to see.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
So you don't need to necessarily, force them or direct them into a thing. But if you can be that energy and just be like, oh, look at Dad, he's so excited by this, and this.
Yeah.
That's something they would, in my imagination, look up to and be like, oh, what's that thing that Dad's
Yeah,
got?
I hope so.
What's that feeling? And I think, honestly, man, you exude it, it emanates out, and it will continue to do so.
Look at you with your fancy words on a Monday.
I've
My
been
gosh,
doing all this.
like.
What about, because you watched our episode back, #3, which is wild.
#3,
It's
man.
wild.
Wow.
God, I just turned it on and earlier while you were here with the quality of it, and I filmed you this little midget.
Giant Mikey.
I had no idea what I was doing at the time, just pressing
Mate.
buttons, but it worked. We got
Everyone's
something
got to start somewhere.
coherent out of it. But we were very much talking about being dads. How has your parenting tools, techniques, and everything changed from listening back to that conversation we were having, with maybe a lot of naivety in there or just confusion? You've been playing the game now for a few years.
Yeah.
Has
And I
it...
keep playing it.
yeah.
I'm not satisfied. I want another round, apparently, every time.
How's it developed? Yeah, in parenting. What have you learned?
I have learned that human beings are just giant balls of emotion. And the only way that a child can react to the world is through an emotional response. And the most important thing is to make sure, to the best of your ability, you don't react with an emotional response. Because it's difficult at times. Like, you know what it's like, sleep deprivation, like it kills the parents. Like it's bad for us. It's so much worse for the mothers.
Oh yeah.
Like, we know it is. Like, we hold our hands up to it. Like, they have the tougher time.
Yeah.
They really do.
In every walk of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So easy.
But it's hard for us too. All right. Yeah. We struggle. But if you're tired and you're trying to kind of come back and help out to the best of your ability, and then the kid is tired, and then the mother's tired as well, everybody's just reacting emotionally. And if you're not careful, that's when, fireworks can happen of like the most stupidest thing. And I think those are the moments where I've had to learn to, kind of keep myself in check. Because there are times when I've reacted emotionally. Usually, like, when it has happened, it's either been when I've been exhausted from doing lots of gigs, or like it's really early in the morning, we've got to get ready and out the house, and nobody's cooperating, and nobody listens to me, and it's just like, oh, man. But yeah, try not to react emotionally to every situation, because I think what I'm learning as well is, you are their role model at the end of the day. How every child perceives the world. Sorry, I've got coffee burps. My apologies. And reacts to things. It's all based on what they witness from you, and it's like, that's a lot of pressure. That is a lot of pressure that a parent has to go through. But it has made me think a lot more about the way that I act, and
I was going to ask that, sort of your mentality and your mindset from Nick then to Nick now. Who do you feel you are, and how's that developed? How's that changed?
I feel like I'm a Nick who's a lot more confident in himself as a dad. I feel.
Does that pass on to all aspects of your life?
Yeah. I think I'm getting a lot more confident within myself and trying to work out who I am and where I'm going and what I'm doing, which is cool. I don't feel scared by the challenges that come up anymore. Like, I know there's going to be ones that are going to scare me, like from a parenting point of view, you know. Yeah. But I think now with a 6-year-old, like for the other 2 now, like these first few years, I feel like I kind of know what I'm doing. Yeah. Like, obviously, every kid's different. Like they're all different, which I love at the minute. Even the baby at the minute, like he's just becoming himself, and it's just like, it's so cool. But I'm not worried about anything that's coming up at the minute. So.
What are some of the first hurdles you had to cross and get through?
So emotional attachments, how they can bounce between each parent.
Okay.
Each day. Yeah. Like, you must have had that. Yeah. Like, you'll have a day where, like, one of them will just be all about the mum, and the mum's be all and end all, which, you know, deep down they always are going to be, and that's fine. But then you'll get a day where they're like, Dad, you're the best thing in the world. Like, take me everywhere with you. And it's just like, oh. And just kind of then having to deal with that if they're like emotionally attached to the mother on one day, but they really need to be with you on that day. And then sometimes like tantrums can occur because they don't want to leave the mother. Yeah. And it's like, well, no, it's cool, dude. Like, we're going to be okay. And it's like they cry and scream at you, and it's like, I don't want to go with you. And you're just like, oh, mate. But they don't mean they don't want to go with you. So yeah, I'd say that's probably the hardest aspect of the first one.
Where you had to go to work for the day and they really wanted you, and you're just looking at them and they're sobbing, and you're like, oh, mate.
Yeah, that does suck.
You're killing me.
But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, it kind of makes me a bit down when I walk out the door and get in the car, if that's happened, obviously, because I miss them, man. I love being with them. I do love being with them. But then I'm also like, you know, I'm really lucky that I have this, and you know, I've promised them, like, I'm going to see you when I get home, or I'm going to see you tomorrow morning and stuff like that, you know, and I'm going to go out and do my best to make sure I'm coming back every day.
And what are you like with discipline? I'm not, all of this I'm just asking because I'm genuinely
you're just
curious.
Getting tips, aren't you? You've got a notebook under that table.
I need to know what's going on. Help me.
I find discipline very challenging because I think at the minute it's okay because it's more a case of boundary setting. Yeah. I like to think I'm fair. Me and Molly kind of we've binge watched a bit of Super Nanny in our time.
Oh, that'll help.
Do like a bit of Joe Frost, you know, it's good stuff.
Is she switched on?
I don't know. Yeah.
It might work.
It works.
Yeah,
like,
does it? Okay,
there are things that we've taken from that have helped, and it's stuff like the warning scenario, basically. Like, if a kid's being naughty, it's not jumping straight to you know, go and sit on the step or whatever. It's like, if this continues, you are going to go and sit on that step and have a timeout, and that is what's going to happen.
Oh, I've just
and
found
that is
your
your
parent
choice.
Voice. I like it.
It's like, you know, and trying not to shout as well. Like, trying not to shout to the best of your ability. But again,
what do you think shouting does?
I don't know what it does. I know there's papers on like it can, you know, excess shouting and stuff at children can cause like anxiety in later life and things like that. I've not read up on it, so you know, I'm not going to claim to be an expert.
Also, probably, we can extrapolate being human though. If we
exactly.
Don't have to know
but what I do know is when I was shouted at as a kid, I can remember that feeling.
Yeah, that's it. You're an expert to that feeling.
Yeah, so it's like
through that.
I don't want that to be a core memory. You know, obviously, I want them to understand there's a line that they can't cross. Yeah. You know, with the both of us, and I'd like them to understand that, to learn that level of respect. But I don't want them to remember that feeling of like
ingrain them with terror. Or
fear.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be done through fear, basically. So.
Yeah, I barely ever shout. Do you ever shout in teaching?
No,
man,
no.
You're the cool, quirky
I
teacher,
can't.
though, aren't you?
I come back and I will vent, or I'll be in the car ride home and I'll just be like, no, like.
How many do you have in a class? What's the most you can have in a class with you doing guitar?
Oh, so I think the groups I do are no more than like 2 or 3 people at a time.
That's nice.
It's mostly individual lessons. But you say about the shouting and teaching, it's interesting because one common thing I have said to especially primary school kids is like they've come in and they've not done their own work and they've blagged it and said, oh yeah, I've done it. And then they can't do it. And I've been teaching long enough now to know as soon as they start playing something, I know. I can't tell you exactly how much that kid has practiced, but I can tell how much time has been put into whatever we were doing. Some cases, it's observational anxiety, which you always get in a teaching situation, and that's fine. Some, like, you go home and you can play something dead good, then you sit in front of your teacher and you can't do it just because it's your teacher watching you. Like, I get that. But some kids I've had where they've just blatantly lied and said, like, I've done it. I've practiced every day. It's going to be really good. And then they can't play it. They can't even remember what it was. They're looking at the sheet and it's like, where's that? And I'm like, look, all I want to do is just have a bond with you where we're honest with each other.
Yeah.
Where we've got to now is we've wasted, let's say, 10 minutes of the lesson, you struggling through a piece, consistently telling me you've practiced when it's obvious that you've not. When you could have just walked through that door and just gone, look, Nick, I haven't done anything at all. I'm really sorry. I didn't put the time in. I didn't have the time, whatever. If you start the lesson like that when you've not practiced, that's fine. Because then I know where we're at. Because if you tell me you've practiced every day and you haven't, like, as soon as you tell me you've done it every day, I get all excited. I'm like, right, we're going to move on to the next thing. We're going to go through this, make sure you have got it. Any little pointers, but then bam, straight on to the next thing. So that puts me in a different mindset to teach. And then all of a sudden I'm like, no, we can't do that because you've not practiced. So we have to then think about what's going on with your practice and all that jazz. But I say to him, like, I'm not going to shout at you. It's like, do you think I'm going to shout at you? If I ask that question, 9 times out of 10, the kids will say yes. And that's because majority of the school teachers, they will still shout at them.
It's a bit wild,
now, I've witnessed the school teachings, and I do understand sometimes that does look like the only option. Because, like, you got a class of, like, 20, 30 kids, and they're all, like, getting rowdy.
It's loud.
You've got to get above that noise. I get it.
Yeah.
But that, to me, I was like, well, that's what they think of all teachers. And I said, well, not all teachers are like that because not all teachers do shout. So I make a point of never, like, getting frustrated or losing my temper in teaching.
It's just an adult that you look up to as well, isn't it? That's all a teacher is. It's an adult you're looking up to. And if that is the consensus of this is how we control and it's by losing our temper. And, mate, honestly, I will not say the school. It was quite far away. But I was teaching Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 all day. They had me from 2-year-olds all the way up till the year 6s.
Yeah.
But even doing my 20-minute classes to 2-year-olds, they were acting like 2-year-olds would. And actually, a bit more obedient than I'd ever seen. Yeah. But that became quite abundantly clear when one of them just, mid-poem, it's like doing Humpty Dumpty or something. Yeah. I'm just doing stuff they know. I'm not trying to reach with my rhythmical mic stuff. But I'm just playing.
Instead of doing knife crime to a bunch of 2-year-olds. Like.
I'm beatboxing, having a lot of fun, and it's working really well. But one of them just gets up, and honestly, the barometer, the shouting that happened from one of the teachers, it scared me. Like, genuinely, I went, whoa, what was that all about? Yeah. And to have that ingrained and that isn't all teachers at all. I know that's just individuals, and even an individual on a different day. Yeah. Maybe that's not a fair account of who she is. But to know that happened, it kind of triggered me. I remember feeling that big in a classroom before. Yeah. And that kid just started crying, and then they had to go out. It's a bigger, and I was like, just let them walk about. It's fine. Yeah. I've got 10 here that are on it.
Yeah, if they're at that age, if you've got 10 of them hooked on, you're winning, mate.
Honestly,
at that point,
for a Key Stage 1 class, for one of them I wanted them to just happily get up and play around and move about. I've got this sensitive soul anyway, and this little squeaky
bit of a child,
voice. I can't really get any higher than this.
Imagine you shouting like, Satan comes after.
It blew my socks off, man. Do you love being involved in education, working with young people, or now you've done it for a while, do you enjoy more sessions with adults and it's kind of you get more out of that session potentially, or do you like seeing the progression and they're getting more and more?
I always love seeing the progression. The progression is just a beautiful thing. Like, just to see them when a student has like that penny drop moment. like something just clicks and they get it and they play something and you see them smile. It's like, yeah, I've got it. And I'm like, yeah, you did.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Well done, you. Get in there, yes. I love working with young people and adults. I definitely feel primary school, because I got kind of thrown into it because that was the first kind of school job that I took on. Because I've been doing that for so long now, I do feel that's my bag. Like, I do like working with kids because there's a lot less pressure in a lesson, because it's a lot more like, or structure. There's more games involved and things like that in order to get them to learn things. And, you don't necessarily spend 20 minutes on like technique or something. But at the same time, I love teaching adults. And interestingly enough, adults can be just as lazy with practice as kids. The only difference is adults have got 1,000 excuses in the world, right? And I'm not like saying that to be derogatory. I'm an adult. I understand. But it's the same principle.
I get you.
Like, they still don't put the time in sometimes. Sometimes they genuinely can't. Sometimes they just don't.
I would say, don't go toward getting a teacher until you can carve out a little bit of time for yourself. Do you know what I mean? It sounds like if you're going to put expense into something, then know that even if you've got to stay up a little later or you've got to get up a little earlier, carve out that time, because I mean, to get money nowadays, it takes a lot of your time to get it. So if you're going to put it into something, then know that you can give it what it needs. That's my thought.
I think adults do look at it more from a financial point of view as well. And so now I'm at the point where the adult students I've got, they're all fantastic. They're all doing so many different styles of things, like they're different levels, and it's all cool. But I did have, like, I remember one adult student I had, and it was an elderly one, but just wouldn't listen to me. Like paying to come and have a lesson with me, taking on board what I give them in the lesson, and then going home and then doing something else entirely. I was like, well, you're still doing guitar, but at the same time, I'm like, why are you doing this? But I think it's just because maybe it's that just older mentality. Like, they find out how old I am. They're like, 20 years older than me or something. It's like, well, you're paying for me at the end of the day, mate.
If I get a PT and go one day a week and the rest of it I'm just eating pizzas and chilling and doing nothing about it, it's the most wasted money ever, surely. So, you got to give a little
think
bit more
about
energy
what you're doing at
Yeah.
the end of the day. It's like, but if you're gonna pay me and then ignore me, that's your money.
I'm with
that
you
was one
on-
attitude I had before.
I'm with you on primary schools, though.
Yeah,
I love that age, especially year 4, 5, and 6. So key stage
and
2.
They're just sponges as well,
mate.
Like,
they really aren't too cool for school yet.
Yeah.
So they've not built that persona where they're just blasé and not giving a shit about
yeah,
it.
just they're like, I don't care.
Yeah,
today,
man.
like-
I worked. It was so polar to one another. But last week, I worked at a school in Derby with year 9 all day, and there was 75 in each class. So five sets of it with 75 in each class. And it was
how does that school operate?
We managed. What? We got through it because they put 2 groups in a class to get for my workshops, but it's really overcrowded, man.
Yeah.
And it was year 9, and it was a good workshop in the end. I just went to doing my talk and getting them to do little bits more about them. Mm-hmm. They've got egos by that time, so they're like them things.
Yeah, I remember being a teenager.
But then the next day, after sort of the battle wounds of that day, they did say that it was the best workshop, and they've asked me to go back. So I'm happy
you're
with
coming
that.
out of it like dragged through a bush and everything. You're like, I can't do this now.
I knew I had a school the next day, so that was on the Thursday, then the Friday, and I was just thinking, how do I even get out of this? I'm so tired. I don't want it. But then I went into this primary school and completely remembered why I love education, why I love school, why I love working with young people. And it was just so beautiful. Everything I said, I was like, right, we're going to formulate a circle now, and we're going to do a game. Like, a game?
Yeah.
Game. Just get
we're not sat down on a chair, get up, this guy's all right.
Everything I said, it was like, jump, and they were how high, and it was so easy to do. And like you say, they just want to please you as well, don't they?
Yeah.
I've done that. I've just done this. I know you asked me to do this, but after I did that, I've just wrote a whole poem for you.
Yeah.
You're like, oh,
It's
mate.
like, what? Like,
Give us a high five.
I can't believe it when that happens. Like, I've had some primary school students like come in and they'll say like, I wrote this song.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? It's like, yeah, we were doing them notes or whatever last week. We did this song. So I went away and I used them notes and I made this song. And then they play it to me and I'm just like, this is incredible. Like, I don't mean like it, you know, I'm not saying it's incredible as in it should be number one. But the fact that the child has just gone off based on a 20-minute lesson from last week, they've then gone off and done this of their own accord. And they've put their time and effort and they put their heart into it. And I'm listening to possibly the purest form of music that I can. It's like the first ever thing that this kid's written or something like that. And it's like, I get to witness that. And then I'm a little bit like, and I help make that happen.
Yeah,
Like,
it's a real part of it. That's
incredible.
why we do it.
So.
But I feel to what I attribute that to is because we know that feeling. You know, when you're in pure flow or pure curation and you're just really present, like you said earlier, you've allowed somebody else to engage with that and be a part of that. So that's the beauty in what I see anyway. Is that I don't know when they're going to need this moment. I don't know when they're going to be in a time of despair or not know what they're doing with their life. And they're like, oh, that helped me that time. Yeah. That's what I really thrive for.
Yeah, man. I think what I say to people is I want to, like, some people have asked me, it's like, you know, why do you teach or whatever? And I think it's just because, like, I want to give them what I've got. I've got this. Well, not just this one. There's quite a lot of them.
No, I'm just thinking your collection.
But I've got these things that are just, they're nothing. Like they're wood bolted together with some strings and some bits of metal here and there, and they make different noises or whatever. And they're just a piece of wood at the end of the day. They're just an object that's been man-made. But for me, it's like an extension of myself.
Yeah,
like it is just literally. I started when I was 12, and I'm
part of your character.
I'm nearly 33, man. So, you know, it's like, that's a big chunk of my
thinking
life.
Of the people you've met on the journey, all the travels you've been to.
I'm not saying people that, like, should be going out and trying to make this full time, but all I know is, even if I wasn't doing this, I'd still be playing guitar. If I'd ended up doing, like, a Monday to Friday type job, I'm pretty confident I'd still be playing guitar every day because it's just a thing to do.
And it is the thing, isn't it? It can be guitar, it could be poetry, it could be football.
This is it. I'm not saying it just has to be guitar. Some people might go on to a different instrument or a different
endeavour.
Anything.
Yeah.
Like,
I always go off and say, I'm not telling you all today, go be poets, but I'm saying, please go and find yourself. Yeah. And find what it is that sparks your passion, sparks your creativity. Yeah, it's a good thing we're in, man. I'm happy we've joined forces on that.
Oh, mate, it's always beautiful.
It's always blossoming. It's blossoming. What's the future then, dude? Where are you at? You've got your family.
Well.
You've got married. It's all happened.
Yes, it has all happened. A lot of things have happened. Bear with me. I think.
Wet your whistle. Have a think. Is it going to be? I'm presuming very musical still.
I hope so. Because if it ain't, I'm pretty screwed. The future now, it's. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. I want to work on my business. You know, I want to start putting a lot more into my business and try and make it a bit more businessy. I don't know the word. Do you know what I mean?
How can you adapt it? What have you thought to build upon it?
I keep thinking like long term, like, you know, when the kids are a bit older and stuff, you know, can I then look at investing into creating my own studio space, creating my own teaching space? You know, I've always wanted to kind of think about doing my own kind of School of Rock style program or stuff like that. You know, when you have people come in and like kids learn how to jam together in bands. I'd love to, in the long run, be able to teach the tech side as well, because I love sound teching. Like, I never thought, like, I never thought I'd be running this many events where I'm just supplying PA and doing sound, but I love it to pieces. I enjoy hosting it. I didn't like hosting at the start because I was always a bit like,
stiff.
Again, I can't do this without a guitar. Like, you're doing like, and now
you're a good host. You are a good host.
Like,
you are.
I am now because I've done it. Yeah. Like, I keep doing it, and I really enjoy it. But the sound tech side of it, I do enjoy. Like, when you have people come off and be like, that sounded awesome, thanks very much for that. It's another one of them like, oh, yes.
That's cool.
But I'd love to be able to teach that to people. you know, because kids can come up and you can say, right, you lot are in the band, you lot are the sound tech, you got to play this song, you got to work together, you guys, you got to put these speakers in, like, we got to talk about EQ and stuff like that. You know, I'd love to be able to teach the whole package, essentially.
I can fully see Nick's School of Rock emerging.
I'd love to make it happen one day.
Oh, you will. You're a doer, man. You're a fully doer.
I've got to find the funds and then work on the time. You know, so.
Oh, they're there, man. Yeah. They're available, especially when you've got
so write me a check.
Your charisma. Not in this pocket. I'm telling you, they're around, though. I can see that happening.
I would love to do it.
Have you looked at any buildings or places that you could develop that?
The closest I got was I was looking at an office space to rent in Ripley. I was looking at that at the start of this year. It's opposite the fish bar.
I know it.
Yeah. So there's one of them for rent. I was like, well, it could be a bit different, a bit nicer, a bit bigger. Long run.
Your own sort of unit.
Yeah. Unit somewhere.
What about already existing studio-y type space, but you just take the sessions and stuff to it?
Yeah, there's that idea as well.
There's a place in Ripley, Element, I think it is called. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it.
It's good. It's cool.
It's like above places, isn't it?
Mate, I can't remember what it's on that. Oh, I'm getting to the weeds of this podcast. This is very niche now. Hello, all my fans in New Zealand. Yeah. Do you know the place near Peacocks? It's on the top of it.
I love it, man.
You'll find it.
Yeah.
It's online or something.
Oh, is it
like
online?
That.
Everything's online nowadays.
Okay, I love that vision, though, man. So when we do another one of these, can we make sure that gets actualized? Because that would be a lot to talk about.
Yeah, that would be a lot to talk about. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
We need to catch up, man. We've done a good catch up here, but there's been a lot to go from on this. There's a lot to chew through.
Yeah,
I missed you, dude. You're a very good human.
This is nice to have conversation again, you know. And again, it's not in a gig setting or anything. You know, like back in the day when we used to go out and go to each other's gigs and things. Like no one ever really connected, did they? Because everyone was there to like either play or get pissed.
Yeah,
you know?
That's do you know what? That's why I carried on the road of podcast. I realised that was the thing that I was pursuing more than anything. It was the connection and sitting with somebody and having that art of conversation, which I find is really creative.
Yeah.
Where you go next with it and stuff, and also beautifully flawed. I like it where we've had mess ups and things like that. It's just human. It's very human connection. But yeah, I think eventually for me, the going out, it just faded a little bit. And not to say at the time it wasn't what I needed. It was all of authenticity too. I think everyone there wasn't faking it. It was just a lot of energy spillage all over the place.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, eventually I realised, I'm somebody that wants to be chilling. I'm somebody that wants to be, this I thrive off of. Really getting an insight into how you've been, what you've been up to, how your mind's working at the minute, what journey you've been on. That really feeds my soul. But there, eventually, it was good conversation for a bit, and then 1 or 2, 3, whatever else. We lost it. We lost it.
You have them deep moments at 2:00 in the morning in the kitchen, and then the next day it's like, what? I gotta go. Like, I can't deal with this right now.
And then you're not facing yourself. And from this sort of conversations like this, you go away, you sit with it, and you think about, that was really interesting. That was a cool part. And then you can reflect on it. And even I've had podcasts where I've added bits from what people have said into my life, and I'm using everyone.
Just trying to build yourself through all the people.
I think it's a beautiful way to connect, sitting for long form time and just really sitting back and just taking it all in.
Yeah.
Thank you for being here today, man.
No, more than welcome. Thank you for having me on this lovely rainy day.
Oh, it's been glorious. It's never rainy with you in the room, dude. Never rainy. Well, actually, I quite enjoy
this.
It's proper cozy, isn't it? It's like being in a big tent, I find.
Yeah. Yeah.
A big metal tent.
Cold as well.
Yeah. Proper camping
I'm joking.
days. I hate camping, but I like it in here.
I'm still waiting for like one podcast episode where all of a sudden like Chris is just gonna pop in and then just start driving the bus around.
Yeah. I wouldn't put it past her.
He's like, I need you, Mikey. The kids.
Dude, where can people find everything you're about, everything you're doing, your albums, all your fun stuff?
Okay, so
and your stuff.
Music-wise, is Spotify or Bandcamp or any kind of streaming service. It's just Nick McCann. So like that's my name. Teaching. I know it's my name. I remember that. Teaching. It's NJMStudios. So that's on Facebook.
JM.
Yes.
Nice.
So Facebook, Instagram. I do have a TikTok. I tried to dabble with
mate.
it. No,
I do too.
like,
and I can't struggle.
I looked at it and I was like, okay. And then I kind of got into it for a little bit, and then I didn't. And there is a TikTok, but there's not much going on there. I was just kind of like, trying to understand
NJM
what was going on.
Studios.
Yeah, NJM Studios.
On-
And then I've also got a website which is NJM. Is it dash? Oh, Zach will kill me. What was it? NJM-studios.co.uk.
That's your website.
So, yes.
Nice.
Yeah, it should be. So we've got everything's
Somebody
on there
took
basically.
NJM already. Oh, yeah, NJM Studios.
I think
You had to
there
put
is
a
an
dash in
NJM.
there.
I think so. I can't remember. I don't know. The guy who made it is like fantastic. But yeah, you can go on there, sign up to our monthly newsletter. You can read all the services that I offer, like teaching and PA hire and stuff like that.
Bit of everything now,
But
mate.
yeah,
It's
just literally
expanding.
a bit of everything. Trying to do as much as I can, basically. And then I'm always putting gigs on and playing where and when I can.
You're forever
basically.
growing,
So
baby.
I'm trying to.
Dude.
So yeah, I'm everywhere.
Give me some of that.
Oh.
Big love, man. Big love as always. I'll leave you on this, guys. Please, just be nice to one another because you're a beautiful set of buggers. Thank you for being a part of the Old Farm Bus. See you later. Ah.